Medical reports reveal at least 20% of the population is suffering from delayed post-traumatic stress disorder.
People talk about post-traumatic stress, but here the trauma has never ended and only continues.
Locals struggle daily with poor memory, poor concentration, and poor sleeping patterns. They call it Katrina brain.
Before Hurricane Katrina, I thought the labels clinical depression and anxiety were somewhat of a cop-out.
Chris Rose, a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist in New Orleans, is one of many with no mental health history who eventually found himself on the edge.
I developed that 1,000-yard stare, where your children look at you and wonder where you are. I've had a number of friends kill themselves since the storm. I now understood why people did such things.
Chris is one of the lucky ones who has insurance, was able to get psychiatric care, and get his life back on track. Most here are not as fortunate. Before Katrina, New Orleans had 196 psychiatrists. Today, only 22 are left.
We went from over 200 mental health beds to less than 50 beds.
Calls to suicide prevention hotlines are 9 times higher than they were before Katrina. In this Mississippi FEMA trailer park, within an hour, we found 3 people who say they are at the end of their rope.
I can't get any help. I am too overwhelmed. I question God all the time.
I have thoughts about suicide. Just to end it, just so everything will go away, the pain and everything.
You can only handle so much. I'm at the end. I'm scared.
Even the children are distressed. 9-year-old Giante suffers from severe panic attacks.
When she just can't breathe, I call the ambulance sometimes.
Kayla right here, she urinates on herself. If it rains, they scream, they holler.
When a child goes through post-traumatic stress, they can act out in many ways, and one of the ways is self-mutilation. She's just 6 years old, and she starts to cut herself sometimes, pull her own hair. That becomes, when she's acting out, it becomes much worse.
Wow.
It's a scary.
I think this is eye-opening. I don't know about you all. I mean, I've read a lot of the stories about Katrina, and we've watched Anderson, but I think that it's really eye-opening to really sort of feel how devastated people's lives still are as we've all moved on with our own lives. You know, one study claims that 2/3 of the children in New Orleans, 2/3 now, are struggling with depression and chronic fear. So how does this impact crime?
But they don't have any counselors in the schools. You can't find a psychiatrist. And pediatricians get overwhelmed, like Dr. Bird that you saw in the footage. And the reality is the kids are taking their cues from the adults. And they're stressed out also.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing begins to fall apart. And so when you look at people who have emotional disorders and they don't get the care they need and you can't get the medications that are required, they begin to act out. And in post-traumatic stress disorder, the emotions and the thought processes don't come together. That's what it's all about. The amygdala blocks it. So you start to act from just emotion. And you do dumb things. You do crimes. You act hostile towards folks. You start taking street drugs. And then we have a crime problem that leads our cops to become babysitters.